What's up? Sorry to keep you waiting. Welcome to part 2 of a series where I'm beating the entirety of Warframe, Star Chart, Steel Path, maybe even something beyond, without spending any credits, with all consequent restrictions. That means I can't craft, I can't upgrade, I can't use the market, rank any syndicates, or even trade with other players, unless it is absolutely necessary for progression. But I'm not allowed to capitalize on any of these exceptions in any way. After I finish with the sequence, the item I spent credits on immediately becomes unavailable for me. And of course, I'm gonna keep track of all of the unavoidable expenses for transparency. Today's episode is gonna be incredibly rich on extremely challenging, borderline impossible boss encounters, and just as many incredibly important choices, each of which could radically, drastically affect this account's path and progression. This is Credits Locked. Saturn is where the shit hits the fan in terms of difficulty. Why? Well, one of the reasons for that, besides the fact that all of the enemies are progressively getting stronger and stronger, while our damage is, for lack of a better word, stagnating, is because Saturn is primarily occupied by the Grineer. Yeah, our good old friend Grineer. So, it's a good time to finally talk about some in-game mechanics. During our journey across the star chart, we'll come to see many different enemy factions. Some of them we already come across, some are many hours away. All of them have unique strengths, their elemental weakness, and their own unique way to survive against Teno. Corpus units rely on their shield, an additional blue health bar that would quickly replenish if the Corpus unit won't be damaged for some time. Very simple, you have a similar one as well. Shields are weak to magnetic and electric damage, and playing as Volt, the electric Warframe, we shouldn't have any problems dealing with your regular Corpus enemies. Infested enemies, usually being an amalgamation of flesh, do not rely on any shields or armor to survive your attacks, but on their massive, chunky HP pool, which also makes them incredibly easy to deal with because red HP is very susceptible to DOT status effects like hit or slash. And at last, Grineer. All Grineer units have armor, which is indicated by their yellow health bar. Armor reduces all incoming damage, massively increasing their effective health. Add to this the fact that the majority of their units are ranged ones, and ranged enemies are bullshit. They could hit scan you across the whole map like it's Doom. Not fun. Grineer are starting to become a problem, and they will be a problem until we figure out some way to strip or outdamage their armor scaling. For the time being, our only option to do it is to rely on various status effects. Corrosion and heat potentially could massively reduce it, while something like viral can increase their damage vulnerability, so we won't have to care about it anyway. The sad part is that our status chance on our weapons is minuscule, and there is just no effective way for us to increase it so far. So we have to just persevere and hope we'll stumble upon any way to increase our damage before the harsh enemy scaling will catch up to us. Yeah, and I haven't even talked about the Uranus junction. This one is rough. A lot rougher than all previous combined. First of all, we have to endure a 20-minute survival mission against Grineer, and I'm sure you know that the longer these endurance missions go for, the stronger the enemies on them get, and after 10 or so minutes, it turns into a cat and mouse game where I'm trying to avoid enemies instead of farming some additional life support out of them. I'm very happy I got my Dex Dakra, because I can't even imagine how painful it would be with just my starter weapons. Where the Dakras won't be any helpful is during the fight with Sargas Rook, the Saturn's main boss, beating whom is a requirement to unlock the junction. A Rook is a giant stone wall for every little Teno who thought the melee combat in this game is so fun as they could just completely ignore the gunplay. Yeah, it's me included. The fight is mechanically easy actually. You are expected to run around the boss, waiting for him to unravel his glowy part. You have to pop like a balloon, you know, Resident Evil. The problem is, the game really wants you to use your guns for this. It's almost impossible to score some melee hits on his weak points, and our guns are suboptimal at best. Also, since we lost our Dreamer's Bond Aura mod, our only method of healing during this prolonged fight is to occasionally suck some red orbs out of rare, isolated Eximus enemies. It ain't looking good. Nah, I'm kidding. When I just said that Rook isn't susceptible to melee damage, I just blatantly lied to your face. Because during this fight I found out that you can actually target his weak spots with melee if you're gonna utilize your jumping heavy slam attacks against him, which is also incredibly slow and even more dangerous, but it easily outdamages shooting him with my guns. I'm desperate for any upgrades. And the last thing we have to do before progressing is to transmute any mod, which cost me 12,000 credits and gave me a Mastery K Parazon mod I'm not allowed to use. Also, I literally demolished the Equinox Spectre, like I had no idea what this Warframe even does, and it still stands this way because I didn't allow them to use any of their abilities, just kaboom! And it's dead! It immediately dropped dead! Yo, Uranus is cool. I love Uranus. Uranus has some pretty cool unlocks important for my account. First of them is a Duviri Paradox quest, the entirety of which is completed playing Drifter and one of 3 starter Warframes with a full package of maxed rank mods. Same with weapons, so there is no point in walking you through it. The entire quest is about Drifter's escapism into the fantasy world that manifested into some twisted form of reality through the void magic. Nah. Is this because of a playable character model overhaul? It's been like 3 months. Fix it! Completing Duviri essentially unlocks 2 new game modes. We don't talk about this one. The first one is the Duviri experience, absolutely useless for our account, maybe besides scoring some additional Mastery XP for leveling my Drifter. Don't think it would be useful though. And the other one is the Circuit, a roguelike mode where you have to choose one of randomly selected Warframes and their gear and complete a gauntlet of missions while getting random power-ups, earning XP and unlocking some pretty interesting rewards like mods, Warframe parts and, most importantly, arcanes. Also, here comes the only downside of picking Vault as my starter, is that Mag and Excalibur could be chosen as a reward in the Circuit, which means you can also obtain one of their augments. And a quick reminder, there is no other way for us to get any augments because we are locked out of ranking any syndicates. There is an exception, Vault's augment called Recharge Barrier. You can get it from the Nightwave. It replenishes a sliver of your max shields when you walk through Vault's third ability just once. And since we can't even upgrade it, it will remain untouched. Sadly, this week's Circuit rotation is completely worthless for us. But you know, despite how much I love Warframe's early game, playing some newish content was kinda refreshing. Then Uranus is where everything starts to get serious, because we finally unlocked what I consider to be the first real quest in this game's main storyline, Nata, during which we are teased with a lot of questions like what's the deal with Mami Lotus? Can I really trust this Tashin fella? And what are these weird alien stickman things I have to scan to progress? I have to scan to progress the main storyline. I have to scan, but I don't have any scanners left because I wasted all of them scanning the worst possible codex entry for the junction requirement. I hope it won't bite us in the ass later down the line. I'm so The quest reveals that our Mami Lotus, who guided every single of our actions from the start of the game, turned out to be a sentient, a murder machine from a Tau solar system created to eliminate all Teno as ourselves. Wow! However, when she traveled through the void between the solar systems, she got a fatal dose of void radiation poisoning that made her infertile. And the war coming to an end, she deserted the sentient army and decided to take care of the remaining Teno as of her own children. Weird. But I guess it's fine as long as she's chill with that Teno genocide thing. Yeah, you know, she might be a human or a weird shape alien thing robot. I'm fine with her as long as she has those titties and that Santusi, you know what I mean. You know. But still, I'm having some weird feeling about it. It's like It's like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, I can't even finish the quest because I have no scanners left. The only way for us to obtain a scanner, besides the 25 free ones we got for completing the Mars Junction, is to buy them from the in-game marketplace for credits, which would ruin the account. As simple as it can get. No, I understand that I have done plenty of exceptions, here's the counter thing, however, all of them were unavoidable. There was no other way to progress this account for me. And this wasn't unavoidable. If I hadn't used up all of my scanners on Frontier Lancers, I would have plenty enough to finish the quest. I admit I made an oopsie, and there is no other way around it. It's over. We just have to restart. Nah, I'm kidding. So there's this guy, an entity called Cephalon Cimeris, who can give us a quick rundown of a synthesis mechanic, rewarding us with 10 kinetic siphon traps to link in the global chat next to my favorite Warframe, and 25 synthesis scanners that work just like the Codex ones, which is more than enough to finish the Nata quest. Ooh, never punished. And we got an Axios Warframe adapter, which gives us an additional space for some very specific mods. I mean, it's cool, it's kinda hard to come by naturally. However, since Vault is our only Warframe, we would not worry about it ever again. And the last thing we have to do before moving from Uranus and unlocking Neptune is to beat the Teal Regor boss. He's definitely a lot easier than Sargas Rook, but wow, he's annoying to deal with. Regor is a melee boss, and since our main way of doing damage is also melee, we'll be constantly stun-locked out of our combo by his barrage of attacks. So the way to counter it, I found out, is to hold my melee weapon in my hands, which allows me to block with it, and strike him only when he is recovering from his series of attacks. It's the first time I'm doing anything like this in this game. I mean, I'm thinking about it and I'm just flabbergasted. There is a whole set of blocking mods, but I'm sure, I know for a fact literally nobody is using this mechanic. It's that content. The Frost Spectre on the junction wasn't really chill. I'm so funny. And he got me one time by completely freezing my ass. No, got my revenge pretty easily afterwards though. Unlocking Neptune also unlocks a quest, the Second Dream, I'm gonna do immediately, because at this point our damage is just awful and we are getting some juicy rewards for completing it. The quest itself ain't even hard. Complete some underwater Archwing missions, fortunately balanced around an unupgraded Adanata, unlock the moon where you have to fight a Stalker boss, who also isn't hard, but I had to abuse a self-revive invincibility timer during the boss fight, and finish the quest with recovering your own body from the cryopod on Lua. You are completely unkillable during it, by the way. I love the early game junk. During the Nata quest, the Grenier dug a little too deep and accidentally awoken an ancient sentient general named Hanhao. He's also the father of our Lotus grandpa, and now he's using a mysterious Warframe known as Stalker as his vessel to finish his mission of total Teno annihilation. Such a cool quest for the new players. An introduction to Stalker, the beautiful Lua tile set, the grand reveal that all this time you played as a full-blown human character with its own personality. Back in the day, it hit so hard. Yeah, if only they wouldn't put a Duviri Paradox quest right before it to completely confuse all of the new players. Yeah, it was a good one. Anyway, beating the Stalker in our operator form finishes the quest and introduces us to focus schools, allowing us to pick one respective focus lens for free. So let's talk about them all. Unairu encourages you to fight with your operator alongside your Warframe, massively increasing your survivability by giving you resistance against slows, staggers and knockdowns, increasing your armor and allowing you to armor strip your enemies yourself. And the coolest perk of this focus school is an ability to revive your Warframe by getting kills in your operator form. Potentially can be really good, you know, because Vault is very squishy and without any mods there is not a lot of ways for me to change it. no prime sure-footed for me, I'm gonna be constantly staggered, I'm gonna be constantly knocked down, but definitely not gonna be our first pick. Vazarin is a weird defensive semi-support school, definitely intended to be utilized in multiplayer, so it's not gonna be of any use for us. Naramon is quite complex, giving you some very interesting ways to combine your operator and Warframe gameplay, but the only thing that makes this focus school worthy is its first, most basic passive that stops your melee combo from decaying. Yeah, we can't really capitalize on the combo multiplier mods, but it's very good with Tenakai, especially on Vault, with his second ability that turns him into a mid grinder. I need to unlock Tenakai first though. Zenurik is all about energy regeneration, which is obviously great, especially on such a restricted account, but believe it or not, there are a couple of good ways to improve our energy economy besides it. Still, some additional energy and efficiency would always be useful, and I'll definitely invest in it sooner or later. And at last, Maudarai, Madurai just takes your operator and, regardless of quality of your amp, the number of your arcanes or maybe even mods you're wearing, just makes them do a lot of damage. It'll always be there as a safety net in case our Warframe just stops being effective. I decided to spend my lens on Zenurik, which definitely was a mistake, but it isn't something I couldn't fix later. And another thing we got for completing the quest is the Broken War. The one, the only, the noob sword. It has great status chance, even greater crit chance. The moveset is easy to use, it is already pre-installed with an Orakin catalyst, and it's something that would directly increase my DPS right before things would become unbearable with just my Dex Dakra. Yep, it's fun and I really enjoy it. And just having it was enough for me to steamroll through Neptune, its boss, the Hyena Pack. And no, I can't say the same about this Junction Spectre, Excalibur, because he is the OG melee frame, and he was really glad to show me that by turning my blender tactic against myself. But hey, I actually found a way to exploit his AI by constantly heavy slamming him, triggering him to unleash his melee weapon, backflipping away after that, and as soon as he switches to his guns, slamming him again. Finishing all this business, we unlocked Pluto, and Pluto is gonna be the last astral body we are gonna unlock in quite some time, because the rest of the astral bodies on the star chart are technically optional for beating the game's main story quest. Unlocking Pluto also unlocks a quest called The War Within, majorly known as the moment when this game's story starts to peak. But before covering it, I have a couple of smaller grinds to finish, like getting some additional mods for my melee. Look how happily I move my cursor around the Vicious Frost mod. It took me like an hour if I remember correctly. Here is a really interesting side activity for me to yap about. One of these challenges on the Ares Junction gives me a set of dragon keys I can use to open these vaults on Deimos, where I can get some pretty useful corrupted mods. Just browse for some Warframe builds online, I guarantee you there will be some of these corrupted mods. The only way to obtain these keys is to copy a blueprint from your clan's dojo and craft them on a forge using credits. So these 4 I'm getting for free are gonna be exchanged for the only 4 corrupted mods I'll ever gonna see on this account. So let's talk about this largely unimportant mechanic using the most comprehensive and engaging format on this platform. Boys, here's a tier list of corrupted mods for my poor ass account. Note that I only talk about the rank 0 version of these because I can't upgrade them. And even if I find a way, these are definitely not gonna be the first ones I'm gonna touch. So the lowest tier is pure garbage I will literally never use. It's a big one. We are having all of the melee mods here, most of the primary and secondary ones, shit like +2 magazine capacity in return of slower reload speed. just garbage. Middle tier are some potential upgrades to some weapon mods I'm already using, mainly crit chance or damage enhancements. It's not hard to come across some status enhancing mods, but crit is a whole nother topic, so getting something like a creeping bullseye mod or a critical deceleration would be really nice. Блять! Фу, бля. And of course my most desirable ones are Warframe mods that shuffle your stats around. Some give you strength in exchange of efficiency, can be good for min-maxing my melee speed with my waltz too. Some give you efficiency in exchange of duration, can be good for spamming my one for interesting setup I'll talk about in the future. And at last I want to address the shield gate mod. On rank 0 it's completely useless, not even worth wasting a mod slot. However, if I find a way to rank my mods without wasting any credits, it'll be the very first one. On rank 3, it's one of the best mods you can install on frames like Vault, because with just a tiny investment in some energy economy, it practically makes you immortal by allowing you to constantly refresh your invulnerability window after your shield breaks. I hate shield gating with every fiber of my soul, and I really hope I'll on the first one! On the first one! Besides it, I got a critical deceleration mod for my the best one I could ever hope to get, and also narrow-minded and overextended. It's insane how lucky this account got.